My name is Laura Bennett, and for the past 3 years, I have worked as a trauma nurse at St. Michael's Hospital in Seattle, Washington. Every morning, I walk through those sliding glass doors knowing exactly what awaits me. The sterile smell of disinfectant, the constant beeping of monitors, and the condescending voice of Dr. Marcus Thornton reminding everyone that nurses are just support staff. Seattle's gray skies match the atmosphere inside our emergency department, where hierarchy matters more than competence. Dr. Thornton graduated from Johns Hopkins and never lets anyone forget it. To him, nurses are invisible until he needs something. I have sutured wounds in places he could never imagine. I have held pressure on femoral arteries while bullets flew overhead. But here, in this pristine hospital with its modern equipment and comfortable break rooms, I am just Olivia, the quiet nurse who never talks back. My colleagues think I am shy. They have no idea that I have seen more trauma in 5 years than most of them will see in their entire careers. I chose this life deliberately. After everything I experienced, I wanted normal. I wanted to save lives without the weight of a weapon on my hip, without the constant threat of enemy fire. So I keep my head down, do my job exceptionally well, and let Dr. Thornton feel superior. If this story has hooked you so far, subscribe to the channel now, because what comes next will surprise you even more. It was a Tuesday night in late September when everything changed. Seattle's rain hammered against the emergency room windows as we prepared for what we call trauma season. The wet roads always bring more accidents, more broken bodies rushing through our doors. I was restocking supplies in Trauma Bay 3 when the emergency alert sounded. All available personnel to the ambulance bay. Critical incoming. Gunshot wound. My training kicked in immediately, that familiar calm washing over me. I have responded to this call hundreds of times before, though my coworkers do not know where I truly learned these skills. The ambulance doors burst open and paramedics rushed in with a stretcher. The patient was a man in his 30s, muscular build, multiple gunshot wounds to the torso and shoulder. He was conscious but fading fast. Dr. Thornton arrived, barking orders as usual. Nurses, get him stabilized. I need vitals now. I moved efficiently, establishing intravenous access, checking airways, applying pressure to the worst bleeding. But something about this patient made my hands pause for just a fraction of a second. His face, the tattoo on his forearm, the way he was trying to control his breathing despite the pain. I knew these signs. This was not just any gunshot victim. This was a soldier. More specifically, a Navy SEAL. And somehow, in his pain-clouded eyes, there was a flicker of recognition when he looked at me. Thank you for staying with me this far. This shows you feel the same way I felt when I lived all of this. So subscribe and hit the bell, because what comes now changes everything. We worked quickly to stabilize him. Dr. Thornton called for blood products while I cut away the patient's clothing to assess all wounds, standard protocol. But my mind was racing. Why did he look at me like that? The patient was slipping in and out of consciousness, mumbling incoherently. I leaned closer to hear him, my stethoscope against his chest, checking for pneumothorax. His lips moved. At first I thought he was just delirious. Then I heard it clearly. Viper, he whispered. Viper, is that you? My blood turned to ice. Nobody here knows that name. Nobody in Seattle. Nobody at St. Michael's Hospital. Nobody in my current life knows about Viper. That name belongs to another person, another lifetime. One I buried 3 years ago when I traded my military fatigues for scrubs. I pulled back slightly, hoping Dr. Thornton had not heard. But his sharp eyes were on me. What did he say? Thornton demanded. Nothing coherent, I replied smoothly. He is in shock, disoriented. We need to get him to surgery now. But the patient grabbed my wrist with surprising strength for someone losing so much blood. His eyes focused on mine with absolute clarity for just a moment. Kandahar, 2018. Charlie Team Extraction. You saved us. Then his grip loosened, and he lost consciousness again. Dr. Thornton stared at me with suspicion, but there was no time for questions. We rushed the patient to the operating room. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this story from? Write it down in the comments. It is incredible to see people from so many places following stories like this. While Dr. Thornton performed surgery, I stood in the scrub room, hands trembling under the running water. Kandahar, 2018. Those words unlocked a flood of memories I had spent 3 years trying to contain. Before Seattle, before St. Michael's Hospital, before I became just another trauma nurse in blue scrubs, I was Lieutenant Laura Bennett, United States Navy, Special Operations Medical Officer. My call sign was Viper, not because I was aggressive, but because I could strike fast and precisely when it mattered most. I spent 5 years attached to SEAL teams, deploying to places whose names remain classified. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, places where the difference between life and death was measured in seconds, where my medical skills were tested under circumstances no civilian emergency room could replicate. I learned to perform surgery in sandstorms, to intubate patients while taking enemy fire, to make impossible decisions about who could be saved and who could not. Kandahar, 2018. That mission haunted me. Charlie Team had walked into an ambush during a high-value target extraction. 8 SEALs pinned down, 3 critically wounded, extraction helicopter 45 minutes out. I was the only medical personnel available. I ran into that kill zone with nothing but my medical pack and my training. For 45 minutes, I kept those men alive while bullets cracked overhead and explosions shook the ground. I performed a thoracotomy with a pocket knife. I used my own body to shield a bleeding SEAL while I compressed his wounds. When that helicopter finally arrived, all 8 men were still breathing. They called it a miracle. I called it training and sheer determination. The surgery lasted 6 hours. When Dr. Thornton finally emerged, exhausted but successful, I was waiting. The patient was stable, moved to intensive care. I needed to see him. Protocol said family only, but I convinced the charge nurse I needed to check his vitals personally. When I entered his room, his eyes were already open, focused despite the medication. Those monitors beeped steadily, a sound so different from the chaos we had both experienced in other places. He smiled weakly. "I knew it was you, Viper." Kept my voice low. "That name does not exist here. I am just Olivia Bennett, trauma nurse. No history, no glory, no call signs." He shook his head slowly. "You saved my life twice now. First in Kandahar, now here. Charlie team never forgot. We tried to find you after you left the service. Wanted to thank you properly. You just disappeared," I explained quietly. "I did what I had to do. I served my time, saw enough death and destruction for one lifetime. I came here to save lives differently, peacefully, without the weight of war." He understood. I could see it in his eyes, but he also said something that terrified me. "The team is coming to visit me tomorrow. They will want to see you. They will want to thank you. Please," I asked, "do not tell anyone here who I was. Let me keep this separate." But it was too late. A young nurse had overheard through the partially open door. By morning, whispers were spreading through the hospital. "Did you hear about Olivia? Apparently she was some kind of special forces medic. Saved a whole SEAL team in Afghanistan." Dr. Marcus Thornton cornered me in the break room the next morning. His expression was a mixture of disbelief and something else, perhaps embarrassment. "Is it true?" he demanded without preamble. "What they are saying about you? Special operations? Navy SEAL teams?" I met his gaze steadily, no longer the quiet nurse who accepted his condescension. "It was a long time ago, Dr. Thornton. Another life. I came here to move forward, not to live in the past." But he pressed on, his voice rising. "You let me treat you like you were beneath me. You have more combat medical experience than I will ever have. And you said nothing. You just stood there and took it." I kept my voice calm, professional, because titles and past achievements do not define who I am now. I chose to be a nurse, to work as part of a team, to serve without ego, something you might consider. The break room had gone silent. Other staff members watched this confrontation unfold. Dr. Thornton's face reddened. "You made me look like a fool. That was your choice, not mine," I replied. "I never claimed to be more than I am. You assumed I was less. There is a difference." Before he could respond, the charge nurse intervened. "Dr. Thornton, Olivia's military service does not change her role here or yours. She has been an exemplary nurse, and that is all that matters. But the damage was done. Word spread beyond our department. By afternoon, hospital administrators wanted to meet with me. The local news somehow got wind of the story, and 3 Navy SEALs in civilian clothes arrived to visit their injured teammate, asking specifically for Nurse Viper. My fellow nurses gathered around me during lunch break, their faces filled with questions and newfound respect. Sarah, who had worked beside me for 2 years, spoke first. "Why did you never tell us? We shared so much, talked about our lives, our families. You never mentioned being in the military. I chose my words carefully. When you experience the things I experienced, sometimes you need to leave them behind to heal. I did not want to be defined by my past. I wanted to be judged by who I am now, what I do every day here. But that is incredible," another nurse named Jennifer said. "You saved lives under enemy fire. You are a hero." I shook my head firmly. "I am not a hero. I was a medic doing her job in extreme circumstances. Real heroism is what we do here every single day, showing up for 12-hour shifts, dealing with difficult patients and doctors, holding hands with dying people, comforting families, saving lives one at a time without recognition or glory. That is heroism." Maria, an older nurse who had mentored me, placed her hand on my shoulder. "You chose humility over pride. That says everything about your character. Not everyone would make that choice." The conversation shifted when one of the SEALs appeared in the doorway. His name was Lieutenant Commander James Morrison, Charlie team leader from that Kandahar mission. His presence commanded immediate attention. "I need to speak with Olivia privately," he said. It was not a request. We walked to an empty consultation room, and for the first time in 3 years, I faced my past directly. Lieutenant Commander Morrison closed the door and turned to face me with an expression of deep respect. Viper, we never stopped looking for you. After you left the service, you just vanished. No forwarding address, no contact information, nothing. I explained my reasoning. I needed a clean break, Commander. 5 years of war zones, of making impossible decisions, of watching good people die despite my best efforts. I was exhausted, emotionally depleted. I needed peace. He nodded, understanding. But you are wasted here. The Navy needs you. Special Operations Command specifically needs you. We are establishing a new advanced medical training program, and you would be perfect to lead it. Your experience, your skills under pressure, your ability to teach others. Think about what you could do. The offer was tempting, I will admit. Recognition, purpose, a return to something I was exceptionally good at. But I had found something more important in Seattle. I appreciate the offer, Commander, but my answer is no. I found my purpose here. I save lives every day without carrying a weapon, without the trauma of combat. These patients need me just as much as your teams did. He seemed disappointed, but respectful. You are sure? I am sure. My mission now is different, but equally important. I chose to serve with compassion instead of in combat. That choice matters to me. Before he left, Morrison shook my hand firmly. The offer stands if you ever change your mind, but I understand. You are still saving lives, Viper, just in a different way. Charlie team will always be grateful. After he left, I stood alone in that room, confident in my decision, but knowing my quiet life in Seattle would never be quite the same again. The following Monday, Dr. Marcus Thornton requested a department meeting. Everyone gathered in the conference room, curious and slightly apprehensive. Hospital politics could be brutal, and confrontations like ours rarely ended well for nurses, regardless of their background. Thornton stood at the front, looking uncomfortable, but determined. I asked for this meeting to address something publicly that I should have addressed long ago. He took a deep breath. I owe Olivia Bennett an apology, not just for last week, but for 3 years of dismissive behavior, condescending remarks, and treating her as if her contributions were less valuable than mine. He looked directly at me. I learned recently about your military service, your experience with special operations, and honestly, it made me realize how blind I have been. Not just to your specific background, but to the expertise and dedication that every nurse in this department brings every single day. You could have thrown your credentials in my face at any time. You could have demanded respect based on your past, but you chose to earn it through your daily work, and I was too arrogant to notice. The room was silent. I stood, meeting his gaze. I appreciate your apology, Dr. Thornton, but this is not just about me. Every nurse here deserves respect, regardless of their background. We are not just support staff. We are healthcare professionals who often spend more time with patients than doctors do. We catch mistakes, we provide comfort, we save lives through observation and quick action. That deserves recognition. He nodded. You are absolutely right, and I commit to doing better, to fostering a culture of mutual respect in this department. The room erupted in applause. It was a small victory, but an important one. Man Chao, 6 months have passed since that night when a wounded SEAL whispered my old call sign, and my carefully constructed quiet life unraveled. St. Michael's Hospital feels different now, though the gray Seattle skies remain the same. Dr. Thornton and I developed a respectful working relationship built on mutual acknowledgement of expertise. My fellow nurses still ask occasional questions about my past, but they have learned to respect my boundaries. I still work trauma, still arrive before my shift to prepare, still find satisfaction in the small victories of saving lives, one patient at a time. The SEAL I treated that night, Petty Officer First Class Daniel Richardson, recovered fully and returned to active duty. Before he left, he gave me a gift, a small challenge coin from Charlie team with the inscription, Viper, once a lifesaver, always a lifesaver. I keep it in my locker, a reminder of who I was and who I chose to become. Some people think I wasted my potential by choosing a regular nursing position over a prestigious military medical career, but they do not understand that true courage is not always about dramatic heroism under fire. Sometimes it is about choosing to serve quietly, without recognition, doing the difficult daily work that keeps our communities running. I found more peace in 3 years at St. Michael's than I ever found in 5 years of combat deployments. Every patient I help, every family I comfort, every crisis I manage calmly adds meaning to my life in ways that medals and commendations never could. My name is Olivia Bennett. I am a trauma nurse in Seattle, Washington. I am also a veteran, a former Special Operations medical officer, and someone who learned that the most important battles are often the quietest ones. And if you stayed with me until this final moment, write the word resilience to prove you heard the whole story and to show that you too understand the strength it takes to choose compassion over glory.